My name is David Sprowl, and I'm the Executive Director of Lutheran Towers. Lutheran Towers is an affordable housing community located in Midtown Atlanta. I'm so thrilled to be here because you don't see a lot of affordable housing folks here. And so I'm the representative for affordable housing. So here you have. It's all right? Great. Can you hear me okay? Well, great. Well, I'm glad to be here representing affordable housing. I want to say thank you so much to Denise Hyde. Where is she? Where is she? I heard she was in the room somewhere. Thank you, Denise, so much for asking me to do this and give me this opportunity. One of the things that I find that's just really helpful in my life is thinking about my life. So this is going to be kind of personal. One of the influences in my life was my third grade teacher. Her name was Miss Swearingen. She was beautiful. She was so pretty that all of the boys clamored for her attention, and I was no exception. One day, just in the passing, she mentioned that she thought Spanish, the Spanish language, was the most beautiful language in the world. That's all I needed to hear. I made it my personal mission to read every book, check out every book out of the library I could find to learn how to speak Spanish, because I was going to impress my teacher. Fortunately for me, I lived in a military family, so I lived on a military post, and I was surrounded by people from all backgrounds and cultures, and some of my friends were Spanish speaking, so they joined me in this little scheme of mine to learn Spanish. So over time, I read, I studied, I was just very, very diligent about it, and finally learned a few phrases. And went to my teacher, Miss Swearingen, and started speaking Spanish to her. She lit up like a bulb. She was so, I could just see she was so proud of me. She told me how great that was that I did that. That made a difference in my life. So much of a difference. To this day, I'm fluent in Spanish because of my third grade teacher. And so I'm forever grateful to her for seeing this little boy who really needed validation, because I'm older now and I can look back on it and realize she knew what I was doing, and she gave me what I needed. That's what we do for our elders every day. Exactly what we do for our elders. Around that time, because I was about 8 years old, I decided that I wanted to be an international businessman. And I wanted to be an international businessman because I wanted, for three reasons. One, I wanted to travel the world. I wanted to be able to speak multiple languages. And most of all, I wanted to make lots of money. I did. So many years passed by, and I got that opportunity. And I actually went to work for IBM. And I worked for IBM for almost 16 years. But I would say at the end of my career, I actually got to live out my dream of traveling internationally, speaking multiple languages, and making lots and lots of money. I did, but I was spiritually bankrupt. I was empty. And so I decided I needed to make a change in my life. I needed to do work that was more meaningful for me and to me. So in talking with my spouse, I made the decision that I was going to go back to school. I was going to resign from my position after almost 16 years and go back to school and get a master's degree in public administration and concentrate on nonprofit management. Because I knew I wanted to work in nonprofits, and I knew I wanted to work with older people, but I didn't know in what capacity I wanted to do that. So while I was working on that degree, I took an internship at Lutheran Towers. And I worked directly with the executive director at the time. And that was an incredible experience for me because I got to see affordable housing from the inside out. After about 9 months, I took another internship, and I worked with the federal government. That was a great experience as well. I was a program analyst, and what we did is we looked or evaluated the different programs under Health and Human Services to make sure they were working the way they were set up. And it was a great experience for me, and I'm glad I did that and had that experience. After about 6 months as an intern, I graduated and got my master's in public administration and was offered a full-time permanent position. And so I took the job because I needed a job. stayed with them for a total of 1.5 years, and after that 1.5 years, I got a better opportunity to this time work with a nonprofit organization. This organization represents home and community-based service organizations, as well as all of the levels of housing throughout the whole state of Georgia. That was a great experience for me to do that, because not only did I get to see what was happening in the state of Georgia, I really got to understand the spectrum of aging services throughout the nation. So that was a really, really great move for me to do that. But after working with this organization, it's called Leading Age Georgia, by the way, after I had the opportunity to work with them, the executive director at Lutheran Towers announced that he was taking a job in South Carolina because he and his wife wanted to be in Charleston, and I was encouraged to apply for the position. Now, I have to be honest with you, I didn't jump at the chance immediately, because I really didn't think, for one, I didn't think the job would be challenging enough for me. A HUD administrator, excuse me? No, not challenging enough. I didn't think that was going to work for me. And I didn't want to have 24/7 responsibility. So I talked to my spouse and friends, and most importantly, I talked to my mom about it, my mother. At the time, my mother was battling lung cancer. And it turned out I had to pick her up from the hospital, and we were heading home to take her home, just she and I alone. It was my alone time with her. And I discussed with her the possibility of applying for the position at Lutheran Towers and wanted to know what she thought about that. After I explained what the roles and responsibilities were, she said, "You know what, son, I think that would be a great opportunity for you. You ought to do that. That's you. You can really make a difference in people's lives because you said you wanted to make a difference." It's important that I tell you that this was an important conversation with my mom, because unexpectedly that very night, my mother died. And through my grief, it's been 10 years and it still makes me do this. But because she said it was the right thing to do, I made the decision to apply for the position. And lo and behold, I got the job. I've been there for 10 years. This past April makes my anniversary, April 24th, of being the executive director at Lutheran Towers. And I have to tell you, managing and leading a staff 24/7 is a big job. But there are lots of opportunities for growth. Lots of opportunities for growth. My philosophy is this, and it really comes from my church, and it's to say that all thought is creative, and how I choose to think creates my personal experience. I apply that in my personal life, and I apply that in my professional life. And it's important to me that I create a safe environment for staff to develop themselves. When staff come into our organization, I take them from where they are. I look beyond just what the job description says they're supposed to do. I look to see what other talents they have, and I create a safe environment for them to develop that and to give that to our residents. I feel proud about that I'm able to do that. And if anyone was in our session earlier, you can see some examples of that, of the great staff that we have. And I'm looking at them now, because this is my amen corner here. One of the things that I realize as a leader is, and it's a challenge sometimes, is getting my ego out of the way. What culture change teaches us is we really need to flatten the hierarchy. In a more institutional setting, the tendency is to look at hierarchies. But culture change says you need to flatten the hierarchy, because really the person who's closest to the situation often has the best solution. And I find that true in our organization. It doesn't mean that if I step aside and let someone else take the lead, it doesn't mean that I'm weak or incapable. It's really demonstrating level 5 leadership to allow it to happen. It's okay if someone thinks that a staff member knows more than I do or is more capable, because that person won't remain there forever. They only stay just as long as necessary to achieve the goal that we're setting out to achieve. In a setting like Lutheran Towers, being affordable housing, we've been very intentional in spreading the gospel of person-centeredness and practicing that every day in all of our works. Not only in our language, for instance, we don't say tenants, we say residents or elders. We don't say facility, we say community, because that's what we are. We are a community. One of the things we often do with care partners who want to volunteer in our organization is that we let them know, we educate them to let them know that we appreciate that they want to come in to share their talent with us and with our residents, but they have to understand that when they come into our community, they're there to share and learn from our elders, because our elders have a lifetime of experience. And we don't believe in making them helpless. We think it's the antidote to helplessness when we allow them, or at least create an environment where they can give as well as receive. And that's what we do. I've shared a little bit about my journey. We're all on a journey. But I'll tell you that in closing, what's most exciting to me is that culture change has created for us a framework and a language that supports what we intuitively know is the right thing to do with and for our residents. Thank you.